Welcome to Red Moon Role-Playing. My name is Matthew Dawkins. Now, I'm not here alone. This game in particular, I am joined by three very special people. Two you have encountered already in our game of They Came from the Mean Streets, Murder Served Hot. But this time, we have a different player. That's right. We have a new player, someone who has appeared on Red Moon Role-Playing before, but not for quite some time, and that's the person I will introduce first, Eddy Webb. How are you doing, Eddy?
Hello, I'm doing fine. It's the first time I've actually played in Red Moon Role-Playing, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, you've played my games before, though, so you've probably got a fair expectation of how they'll go.
Yeah, it's all downhill, I'm sure.
Yep, the introductions are the strongest part. And how long has it been, Eddy, since we last spoke to each other?
5 minutes? 10 minutes?
Yeah, I guess so. Wow, time does fly, doesn't it? So, in this session of They Came from Bridgton Rectory, what kind of character are you going to be playing?
I am playing Mikhail Smetanov, who is a wastrel who is spending all of his inheritance as fast as he possibly can, and maybe eventually we'll find someone who will tame his hearts, but we shall see.
Yes, indeed. And one other thing, Eddy, this is what I like to do up front with these recordings, is if there's anything you want to promote, now's a good time to do it.
If people are interested in fantasy games featuring uplifted dogs, I highly recommend they check out Realms of Pugmire at realmsofpugmire.com.
That's right, and it would be remiss of me to not recommend They Came from the RPG Anthology, which is what They Came from Bridgton Rectory is in. And speaking of which, that Kickstarter campaign is still going as of time of recording, and the author of this chapter is on this recording. MK Anderson, welcome back.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Are you ready to see your hard work put through the mangle?
Oh, I'm actually really thrilled. Yeah.
And what character are you going to be playing in They Came from Bridgton Rectory?
I'm going to be playing Ivana Smetanov. She's the only sensible child of low nobility.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, the listeners may be picking up that there is a certain cultural familiarity with some of these character names, but we'll get on to exactly why shortly. MK, is there anything you want to promote?
Buy this book, because I wrote this chapter in it, and I'm very proud of it. I also have a YouTube channel at Qualia Redux.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, MK. Lovely to be playing with you again. And last but certainly by no means least, Kim Godwin. Lovely to have you with us once more.
Yes, it's always fun to play the games that we've worked on.
It is. I mean, we're effectively doing playtesting before an audience. I don't know whether that is truly the best way, but damn it, that's how we're going to do it.
Oh, yeah.
And what about you, Kim? Who are you playing in this game of Bridgton Rectory?
I'm playing Asol Smetanova. She is the doe-eyed romantic, the youngest of the three siblings, who's dreaming of a heroic revolution, rather. And we know how that goes.
Very well, obviously.
Oh, yeah. Nothing bad ever happens during a revolution.
No. Totally
it's all romantic.
Well, speaking of revolution, and we will get onto that momentarily, what would you like to promote?
Well, my tasty bit, Don't Open the Gates, for They Came from Beyond the Grave, is out on Drive-Thru RPG. It was a lot of fun to be working to actually have, my own little book. But I'm hoping that we'll start seeing the Trinity Continuum Assassins VTT adventure that I worked on with Matthew as the developer will be releasing soon. I'm seeing the art and the Monday meeting notes, and it's making me happy.
Well, I certainly hope so, because I did the first proof of it today, so as of time of recording, so it seems likely. It does seem likely.
And of course, I wrote They Came from the Interstellar Starship chapter of They Came from the RPG Anthology, so definitely support the Kickstarter, please.
Yeah, that's the only thing I really want to promote. You all know who I am, Red Moon Role-Playing listeners, by this point. But they came from the RPG Anthology. It's such a labour of love. We put so many chapters into it. And most importantly, and I think what's making the backers so damn enthusiastic about this book, is the polls that we're running every single week to add further chapters. We'll be adding 4 additional genres. So far, we have seen, what did we see? Murder mysteries. They came from the billiard room with the candlestick. That is the first additional chapter we're getting added. The second one, as of time of recording, could be they came from Neo Tokyo, 90s anime, or it could be they came from Beneath Capes and Cowls, 1960s superheroes. Right now, the voting is very, very tight, but there are 2 more chapters to come, and you can vote on what you want to see in this book if you back the Kickstarter. So, with all that said, thank you very much, all of you, for playing. We are now about to start a story I call Chekhov's 2 sisters, open brackets, 1 brother, close brackets. They came from Mostovoy Gorod Svyashchenik, otherwise known as they came from Bridgton Rectory. The year is 1917. It is a turbulent year for the people of Russia. Well, to be fair, it is a turbulent year for the people of Europe in general. That's right, the Great War is raging. The bodies are piled high. The trenches run red with blood. Young Tommies fight young Germans. Young Russians fight young Austro-Hungarians. Young Serbians, they're somewhere in there too. And you've also got the French, the Belgians, hell, if you're in Europe, you're pretty much caught up in this mess. But there is one class of people who often remain out of such things, free of such conflict, somehow above such petty fighting. Is it money that exempts them? Well, sometimes they get involved in strictly officer roles, but sometimes, just due to the dint of their title, they remain home while their peasant stock heads off, rifle in hand, never to return. This is one of the families we will be looking at in 2 Sisters, 1 Brother. This is the Smetanov family. It is the end of January 1917. Somewhere between Moscow and Petrograd, the Smetanov family held their estate. Their estate has been running for many years, many generations indeed, going all the way back to Catherine the Great. What an empress she was. But in recent years, in fairness, the Smetanov family have fallen on harder times than where they once were. Many, many years ago, you would see among them the ranks of grand and archdukes. Now they are low nobility. Their peasantry is committed largely to dairy farming, which doesn't bring in a massive haul of coin. But they still hold their land, and they have thick walls. Thick walls, they can withstand anything that's coming in, February 1917. And it is in this estate, the Smetanov estate, where Smeta Smegmanov, the family patriarch, sits at the breakfast table with his 3 children. Old, whiskered Smeta, his wife long dead. He's had to support these 3 children, well, all their lives, and sometimes it's been harder work than it really warrants. He looks across the table, over his boiled egg as he taps the top. Typically, he'd get one of his butlers to do it for him, but sadly that butler was enlisted and sent off to fight in a war. Not really sure how to open this egg, in fact, on his own, so he taps it, it collapses in it on itself. He looks at the egg, somewhat disappointedly, and he says, "Mikhail."
Yes, father. What do you want this time?
When you open this egg, how do you get the insides out?
Father, I have told you this many times. You're supposed to cut the top off. You're not supposed to cram it in.
I've seen people get the spoon and go crack, 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 and somehow that does it. Or I'm not eating eggshell. He pushes the plate away. I've lost my appetite.
Why don't you have toast or meal or something? You and the eggs are not doing very well.
It's always the same. Me and the eggs every day. I wish I could eat one good egg. He looks off into the distance, the wind sweeping. Beyond the window, a flurry of snow, blocking all long visibility. He shakes his head. How did we end up in such a state, Mikhail? How is it that such sadness comes to this home?
I assume that the war may have something to do with it?
The war. The war has nothing to do with us. It is being fought by people. The Tsar, wherever he may be right now, I'm not sure. You know, there is talk of his abdication.
Really? Why would he do that?
Well, I'm not sure, really. I mean, he has the God-given right to rule. Anyone who would see fit to depose him would be the worst kind of criminal, if you asked me. Now, Tsar Nicholas, he is a man that knows how to crack an egg. Once he has his hand back on the reins of this great Russian horse, then we will return to former glories. Georgi, he shouts over to one of the footmen. Bring me some toast. I have regained my appetite. And pour an egg on it.
Again with the eggs.
Asshole.
Yes, Papa?
You have been unusually quiet. Enjoying your egg?
Yes, Papa.
See, Mikhail. Asshole is a girl who knows the priorities in life.
If you say so.
A good meal, a warm home, family around her. Isn't that right, asshole?
Yes, Papa. I love being here with you and my lovely siblings.
And may that never change. Somehow this is feeling increasingly like a Chekhov play. As he smiles over at his other daughter, Ivana. Ivana, you've not said a word one to me all day.
Ivana looks up from her egg, which she has managed to crack and is halfway through. I didn't know that my opinion was needed here, Papa.
Oh, this is a free house. Of course your opinion is needed. Have you heard any rumblings from the serfs? You know, and he leans over his demolished egg. You know, I have heard from some of the house staff that they are thinking of, and he frowns, organizing.
Organizing into what?
Who can say? None of them can read. They certainly do not have the education or backing to do anything more than wave their pitchforks and torches.
They're teaching each other.
The day a peasant poses a threat to the great Smegmanov dynasty. Of course, you are Smetanovs, taking after my first name, as is the Russian style of the time. It will be the day I die, he says, as the shutters rattle, the wind striking against them. And as he does so, your visitor enters the dining room. Archduke Hermann von Schitt, a German dignitary who has been with you since November 1916 and increasingly despairs. He ran out of things to say to all of you quite a long time ago. He is accompanied by his Batman, Lieutenant Clem Müller. But Müller knows to stand back. The Archduke, who is a very young man, handsome with it, blonde hair swept to the side, somewhat ruddy complexion. He's never really fought, but he represents the German aristocracy and claims again and again, as he sits, I am still waiting for the invitation to the Duma. When will it arrive? Smeta, you said that you would reach out to them. And I have, and they did not respond. You cannot trust this Duma. Ever since Stolypin met his end, the government here has been nothing but ineffectual. Herman remembers his manners and bows. Mikhail, and then bows and takes the hand of Ivana first. Ivana kisses your hand.
Archduke, it is always a pleasure to see you floating to the top as always.
Well, that is what I excel at, but if I am ever feeling low in spirits, the company of Asol is always there to make me smile. And he takes Asol's hand and gives it much too long a kiss. Keeps his head bowed, but looks up. Doesn't move his head, but his eyeballs do. He's trying to make eye contact with you while he is slobbering all over the back of your hand.
Asol smiles demurely. She kind of squishes herself together and it's like, oh, you're so sweet.
He stands back up, bolt upright, as is the German tradition. Would you mind if I shared an egg with you, Asol?
Oh, no, not the eggs again.
You have the finest eggs in Russia. In Germany, we do not consider the egg part of dairy, but in Russia it is apparently the same dairy as milk and cheese. Quite a revolution. The wind batters the shutters in culinary experiences. Your eggs really are the finest. He looks at Asol in a way that you think is trying to be flirtatious.
I think Ivana pipes up and says, "Oh, you have an interest in dairy."
Yes, yeah. I have, how you would say, great big interest in dairy. Back home in Bavaria, my family has something like 6 dairy farms. We make the finest of Bavarian cheese.
6 dairy farms.
Yeah, that is right. Well, some of them have seen better days, of course, what with the war. This is why I am so keen to see it ended, of course. That and the horrible waste of human life. But with all of the dairy farmers off fighting the British, or in some cases, your Russian kin, there are many cows whose udders have not yet been pulled.
Oh, and they must be so sore.
Yes, indeed. 3 years deep without a milking. And he looks at Asol. I wonder if you have likewise been waiting.
Ivana sort of slumps.
We're on our,
You seem dumbstruck, Asol.
It's just you just have such vast knowledge and it's just dizzying.
I am what you might consider a worldly man, but for instance, I can speak Russian with a perfect German accent as I am right now, and you can understand every single word I'm saying. But more than that...
You have quite a cunning tongue.
Well... He moves his chair a little closer.
While the Archduke is drawing the attention of the room, Mikhail has slid a small snifter of whiskey and is very boldly drinking it at breakfast.
Your father shakes his head at you, but he doesn't say anything. He's already been through enough embarrassments on your account.
Oh, it's the good whiskey.
Yeah, the good whiskey.
Ivana's gonna excuse herself from the table and say, speaking of needing to milk the cows, I think I'll I think I'll check on them.
It's not before time, to be honest, because right now Herman von Schitt is showing Assel how to eat a boiled egg without a spoon, and it is quite a vulgar demonstration that requires his mouth to be very close to the cracked top and his tongue penetrating deep inside. And if you look closely, I will not break the shell.
Oh my.
And he holds up the egg, he tips the shell upside down. Behold, look at this. I have sucked the contents of this egg out. Ha!
Ivana has probably had a conversation or two about with Assel about how she would prefer to be the one to take the bullet on this one, but if the man wants to marry her, if the man wants to marry Assel, she's gotta do what needs to be done to get them out of Russia. So she's gonna look at you and just have kind of a motherly, hard, be nice look.
Assel has her hand over her mouth and she looks over at Ivana and pouts, but goes back to looking at the Archduke like this is the most charming thing ever.
The Archduke has yolk in his mustache and beard and smiles, his teeth beaming. I have taken quite a liking to you, Assel, if you... I will follow the correct course of conduct, of course, young Smetanova. Smeta, may we have a private moment? Your father nods. He looks quite pleased with this potential arrangement. The thing is, Assel, you know that this relationship, this devotion Herman von Schitt has had to you, this is... You almost think it's a symptom of boredom. Because when he arrived here, he was of the utmost professionalism. He was an aristocrat, he behaved with an aristocratic bearing, but he made it quite clear to you and the rest of the family he was not permitted to return home to Germany until he could secure a peace deal between the Duma of Russia, ideally the Tsar, but the Tsar seems to have disappeared up his own asshole. But with that in play, he has grown increasingly listless and has now taken to these vulgar displays. You don't know whether it's for his own amusement or whether he has genuinely developed an attraction for you that he's displaying in such a crude form. But regardless, Smeta, your father, seems pretty pleased with this outcome. Wear the German aristocrat down long enough, he seems to be thinking, and eventually I might be able to marry one of my daughters to him.
Which is unfortunate because there are far more charming guests about.
There are indeed. As Herman and your father wander off, you hear Herman say in a low voice, "So I would like to speak with you about your asshole," at which point they disappear through a door and close it.
After a moment, Mikhail will go, "Well, he seems nice." Drink.
May I have some?
Of course. Here you go.
The footman shakes his head in a subtle but clearly condemning fashion. Asshole, this is not how a young noblesse such as yourself should behave, but times are changing, and it does seem the house staff are getting increasingly bold in expressing their displeasure. You've known Georgi most of your life. You've rarely seen him frown at you. But now his lips are pursed and his head is shaking slightly.
She kind of looks at him, her eyes wide. She flutters her eyelashes and pouts.
Georgi scowls. Clearly not a suitor.
I am very used to his evil gags. You grow a skin about it. It's fine. Just have the drink. It will make you feel better. Or at least make you not care.
Just a little.
Well, we'll put some ice in it so you're not as strong.
Well, if there's one thing you have plenty of here, it's ice.
I just reach outside and...
Just pour some water in your hand, cup your hands outside, frozen within 3 seconds. It's fantastic. No, between Moscow and Petrograd, it isn't actually that icy, but, it is still damn cold. You've got snow flurries raging out there, and that is the weather that Ivana has chosen to expose herself to rather than staying in this house with Herman von Schitt. So you make your way to the dairy, as it's one of the very few places you can go where you can get peace of mind and think about things outside of this family's steady degradation. Your friend Grigori waves at you upon seeing you. You can't really make Grigori out given the thickness of the snow blowing around here, but you recognize his red coat.
She relaxes despite the cold, because they're good friends despite the class boundary issue. Like, oh, Grigori, how are the cows?
Come on, let's get inside from the snow into the barn.
Absolutely.
Of course, Ivana, this isn't the first time you've been in the barn with Grigori. There was a time, a couple of years ago, when both of you succumbed to what some might consider your animal urges. It didn't go too far. It didn't result in a long-term love affair, and you both pledged secrecy. You're friends more than anything else, but sometimes the desperation of everything that goes on around you can result in a feverish fumbling. That's what happened back then. But times have changed a little now. Grigori is older, more weather-beaten, more racked with the snow and the cold. Not to mention, a great many of the servants who used to work for your family have since disappeared, moved on to pastures new. Grigori has remained, but he's had to pick up a much greater share of responsibilities. But still, once you're inside the barn, he takes his balaclava up and smiles at you. Oh, what are you doing out here? You're going to help me milk the cows. You'll have to warm up the udders first. They're practically frozen.
I think I can do that. That sounds better than what's going on in the house, if I'm going to be maybe too honest.
Ivana, your family, I'm so sorry. But I have something that I think will cheer you up.
Oh?
Come with me. Takes you over to some of the churns. This is my freshest cheese.
Oh, goodness. May I have a little?
You can have a lot. This has been a good season, especially given the weather. And I dare say we're not going to be able to take it to market. There's all kinds of toll booths and guard patrols on the road now. Banditry run amok. We're going to be eating a lot of this cheese ourselves, I can well see. So tuck in.
They complain about starvation, and then they won't let anybody get on the road.
Well, I don't know much about starvation, being a serf to a noble family such as yours. And he smiles, and it seems to be a genuine smile. But you do hear things from some of the peasant villages that life is not so good in Russia. Right now. Or ever.
Well, that's sort of who we are, isn't it?
A long-suffering people.
Builds character.
Well, that is one way to look at it, but if I still have my cows, if I can still make my cheese, and I think you will agree it is the finest cheese this side of Petrograd.
I think she takes a little bit, and she tastes it.
It is good cheese.
And her eyes just kind of roll back a little bit, because it's very, very good. Oh, my goodness, you've outdone yourself. Oh, you're always so good at this. And I think she nearly reaches for her hand, but she remembers herself and stands up a little straighter. Oh, forgive me, I'm a little tight. Which is a quip.
He clears his throat. I have to say, Ivana, I am going to miss these little liaisons of ours.
Miss them?
Yes, haven't you heard?
No.
The peasants, the people, those starving masses to whom you refer. I'm a well-spoken peasant farmer. There is talk of an uprising. I mean, there is no organization, do not get me wrong. There is no leader. There is no one commanding everyone to march to the same drum or anything like that. But word is traveling. The peasants are going to stop working for the masters. They are going to stop milking the cows and hoeing the land. They will take what they feel is theirs. And when that happens, well, what am I to do?
Her blood has drained out of her face. She's probably more politically aware than the other nobility, which still makes her not very aware. But she's aware enough to know that normally a military would put them down, and the military is in Austria. What shall I do?
What shall you do? Well, you need to stay with your family. What else can you do?
Do you think they'll let us live?
Oh, Ivana, you have always been good to people like me. I will speak to the mob. I'm sure they will listen to a humble dairy farmer like myself. And he smiles blithely because he's a bit of an idiot. But do you know what I heard? I suppose you don't. It was a silly question. Allow me to tell you something that I heard that I think you will find very interesting. It is such a funny indictment on the Tsar and the Duma. Here, have a seat. He points you to a barrel.
I sit, but very upright.
He grabs his braces as if to make a public speech. My name is Kerensky. I am head of the Duma. And upon hearing, you've heard his Kerensky impression before. It's not that great. But then again, you've never met the real Kerensky, so who can say? It's just not a great impression. I am aware of the mass of people who are abandoning the front and returning to Russia because they think we are about to be out of this war. Well, I have come up with a solution. And he looks at you with a little grin. Rather than punish the people going absent without leave, I will grant every soldier the right to return to the front within the next 3 months with no punishment, as long as they return. You need to cheer at that bit, Ivana.
Half-hearted clap.
And you know, and he says, he leans in, this is what actually happened. My father told me that this happened in the Duma in Moscow. That Kerensky said that everyone who has left the front and returned home to work their family farms and say, to hell with this war, that they were given carte blanche, as they would say in France, to just leave as long as they came back within the next 3 months. What a funny thing. They're so afraid of losing their soldiers by punishment and mass court-martials, and I guess the huge dissent that will occur if they do, if they start punishing people, that they've basically given them freedom to come back at their leisure.
Count von Shit isn't going to like that they're trying to get people back to the front.
Especially if he is demoted from Archduke to Count. But I will tell you something else. You know what our friend Russians are doing with this piece of information?
What?
They are abandoning the front in droves, because they know that they will not be punished for it now. They're taking 3 months of leave. They've basically been given the freedom to do so. And so it had the opposite effect of what Kerensky wanted, and now our front is full of holes. Again, I am just hearing this from the village elders, but this country is... and he makes a down-the-toilet motion. So in short, Ivana, you need to stay close to your family because things are happening, change is happening, the front is collapsing, and I do not know what will happen to Russia, to you, to me, in the next year, let alone the next day or month.
She's going to reach out for Grigori's hand, which is a huge reach of etiquette even for her. Especially for her. And she's going to look him in the eye, and she's going to say, Grigori, they will kill us.
No, I will tell them that you are some of the good ones.
She's got a very worn copy of Capital that she's going to take out of her pocket. And she's going to hold it up and say, they don't believe in good ones.
I do not read, and he looks a bit embarrassed.
It's all right.
Don't worry, Ivana. As long as you're inside your house, you've got big, solid walls. If the mob comes baying, I will tell them, no, Ivana Smetanova, she should be spared. And of course your sister and brother. Well, maybe not your brother, but certainly your sister. Speaking of Mikhail, you were in one of the many parlours waiting for the snow to subside when your friend, who has been staying on the property, Duke Nikolai Vladimirovich, walks up to you with a big old smile, punches you on the upper arm.
Nikolai.
Mikhail, you ready to win back everything you lost last night? I know it's early.
I do not recall losing so much as being cheated out of all of my money.
That is a tall claim that I would be willing to put to the test in another game of cards.
Yes, but this time I want to make sure all of the guards are there. I think there were a few missing last time.
Well, maybe we should get some more people involved so that we have more eyes on the table. What do you think?
The Archduke, he is here. Perhaps he would be interested in a
he
friendly
is the most
game.
Frightful boar, don't you find?
But he's a very rich boar.
Well, that is the thing. I have tried rubbing him the right way to get him to gamble something, and he is resolute that he will not. But maybe you could work your charm on him. Maybe there's something he wants that you can provide, and he gives you a wink.
There are some things he might be interested in, but I don't know.
I hear he's very interested in your asshole.
I've heard this, but she's so young, and he is so full of yolk.
That is true. It's unpleasant, isn't it? How he goes around without cleaning his beard all day.
It's unhygienic, and it smells after a while, and I would not say it to his face, but...
It reminds me of those stories of Rasputin, you know, the monk, the one who got inside the German empress's head.
I don't follow religion, honestly.
It's probably for the best. Well, listen, I am here for at least a short time longer while the snow holds, but the roads as well. It isn't just the snow that is holding me up.
No, what does this?
There are bands of, bandits. I hear one duke was making his way from Petrograd to Moscow.
Mm-hmm.
A band of peasants, you expect them to have, pitchforks, torches, maybe a club or two.
I assume I don't know how I've ever met a bandit before.
They threw grenades in his car.
Really?
Grenades, bombs, yes. There wasn't much left of him, just a pair of smoking boots. They are getting brazen, these poor people.
Where are they getting grenades from?
I guess they make them themselves out of fertilizer and vodka. I do not know.
You can do that?
Like I said, it's a guess. They could just as easily be making them out of rice and eggs. I am not an expert.
Again with eggs. What is it with everyone? Eggs? Why is everyone so obsessed with them?
Mikhail, you are too humble. The Smetanov eggs. Your eggs. And he puts his hands out. The eggs, you know. Everyone loves your eggs.
That's what I've heard these things, yes.
Just a shame no one in this family seems to know how to eat one.
That's true. But no, tell me, these grenade-wielding bandits, is it just the one group? Is there more of them?
I'm not going out as a scout, Mikhail. I just heard of one band that assassinated one duke. For all I know, they packed up their gardening tools and went home.
Why isn't the military taking care of these then? They should be protecting
the military,
us.
They're fighting the Germans. Our friend Archduke von Schitt and his friends.
Oh, that's right. I remember something about the war.
Mikhail, you're getting distracted. Let's gamble.
Yes, that'll be focus. It's too early and then too sober.
He puts his arm around you and leads you to the corner of the parlour. The deck of cards is already out. And he starts dealing. He doesn't give you the opportunity to check how tampered with this deck has already been. And as he does so, he looks at you. He says, "Oh, if it is true what they say about the revolting peasants, we're going to want a way out of here."
Way out? We just got here.
I mean, a way out of Russia.
Really? You think it is that bad?
I have a bad feeling, Mikhail. That's your hand, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
I have a feeling that this isn't going to be like 1905. You know, I think these peasants will go much further this time. They are tired of the Tsar. All the lives that have been lost, and for what? What have we gained out of all of this?
Apparently, at least a very bad hand of cards.
Oh, no, well, you really shouldn't tell me these things. This is your greatest weakness in gambling, Mikhail. You need to be able to bluff.
Ah, I see. You are very wise and apparently very well informed. But 1905, even people were saying, "Oh, the peasants are going to leave and everything's going to go terrible, and this will blow over." Right? Everyone's just the Tsar is the Tsar, and he'll say things, and the war will end at some point, and everyone will go back to the farms and they'll work again, and it'll be fine. I think you're worrying too much.
Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. Let's have a whiskey, shall we?
Yes. Although, given the strange streak of luck you had yesterday, I could stand to borrow some more money. I will pay you back eventually.
Well, rather than borrowing money from me, I mean, that kind of defeats the purpose. Why not borrow some from your father?
He's upstairs, and it's very far away.
Well, and Nikolai looks around the chamber. That chandelier. That's been in your family for, what, 100 years?
If you say so.
I think so. I was looking it up and down quite attentively last night. Let's say your bet is the chandelier, and I will put against it, let's say, 200 rubles.
Sure, that sounds reasonable, I suppose. I have no idea how much a chandelier is worth.
I mean, what does a chandelier cost?
Right, like 20 rubles, maybe? I don't know. I've never bought one before.
Well, in that case, I think let us hope that, I get the better end of this deal.
That sounds wonderful. Let's see what your cards are.
As you play, there is a smash through the window. A stone, a rock even, has been thrown through the window and rolls to your feet.
I'll look at it.
Nikolai dives from his chair and behind a sofa, covering his head.
Mikhail's already forgotten about the grenade conversation. And just look like, oh, that's a rock. That's very interesting. Pick up the rock.
Someone has painted or daubed a symbol on it.
What kind of symbol?
It's a hammer.
That's very silly.
Nikolai peers over the back of the sofa. Not a bomb, then?
Do rocks traditionally explode around you?
Ah, Mikhail, I didn't look. I just heard it smash and hit the floor.
You are so paranoid. No, there's something painted on it. Ivanka knows about these things. I'll go ask her.
I'll make sure that, I'll keep an eye on the cards, make sure no one tampers with them.
Yes, please do. And also, flips over his hand, and it's just garbage.
2 2s, 2 4s.
You have a chandelier. Congratulations. You didn't take it down yourself.
Ah, yes. Shame you lost that butler, really.
Yeah, yes, you should. So I'll go take the stone and try to find Ivanka.
While you're looking for Ivanka in the snow, asshole, you know that Herman and your father have been speaking at length behind closed doors. What are you up to?
Well, there isn't much to do.
That's true.
Haven't gotten much news. Ivanka is being responsible. Mikhail is doing what he does. Perhaps she can find somebody besides Herman to talk to. Just trying to fill the silence. There isn't as many servants around, and it's not like she can go visit friends, so she's kind of stuck between reading the same handful of books or working on the painting that isn't coming together.
You could always head down to the village. You've got a friend down there, Lev Popinski. He is a literate individual, very well read, and has often stopped by the house to engage in discussions of politics and philosophy with your father. Your father is a total boor when it comes to such things, but Lev is quite a captivating individual.
She'll go find a coat and something slightly warmer to go to town to talk to Lev.
As you leave the estate and try to fetch one of the horses, you see the housekeeper, Carla Hinky, creeping around outside. She sees you, you see her. She thrusts her hands underneath her coat and quickly runs the other way.
My, how strange. Maybe she's just cold. Maybe she heard the kettle ringing. Oh well, let's get the horse saddled up and ride into town.
Yeah, you do that, and all those warnings that both Nikolai and Grigory were passing out were on the money. Because as you're riding along the trail that leads to town, you find yourself approaching an obstacle, an obstruction. There are 7 peasants stood around the road. There is a cart that is straddling the road, and the snow continues to fall heavily, though thankfully the wind has abated somewhat. One of the peasants stands taller than the rest of them. He also has a longer pitchfork. A muscular man, a jaw that's thick and a neck that's thicker. It looks like he swallowed a box and it got stuck halfway down. He looks all very cubist. You're the Smetanova girl. Da? You should go home, little girl.
I was just going to go visit Lev in town.
Your friend, the intelligentsia.
What about him?
He has run into some troubles. His ideas do not complement those of the peasant revolution. The square-jawed peasant brings his pitchfork handle down hard into the snow. It doesn't make a sound because it's bringing down into the snow, but it still, the sound effect that is applied in post is quite deafening, like a thunderclap. Don't worry about your friend Lev. He came along with all of his ideas. He is just another one of the... I think, what do they call them? Bourgeois. With his spectacles and his finely manicured beard. Yes, he is hurt. and he will be dealt with by the peasants. And soon, little Smetanova, we will be coming for you as well. You can go back to your daddy and tell him that. It doesn't matter how deep you lock yourselves in your castle. You don't have a castle, but still the words have the required effect. We will pull you from it.
I would like to use my trope, you mustn't.
Oh, explain to us what that does.
The heart can't bear to witness wickedness. Once per session, they can cry out in dismay immediately after roll to commit an evil act. All successes on that roll are negated. In character, the heart must be aware that the evil deed is occurring to put a stop to it. So she's trying to stop him from hurting Lev.
What are you going to cry out?
Please don't hurt him. Just let him go. He hasn't bothered anyone. He's just one man.
Your words don't get through to the farmer, but an older woman, a babushka, who is part of this peasant mob, does tap him on the shoulder with her stick, and these old women are always respected. Listen to the young woman, Karl. It is, we do not need to vent our anger on someone like Lev Popinski. Our true anger should be aimed at people like her. She and her family are the ones who make us starve. She and her family are the ones who treat us as slaves. It is she and her family that have sent this country to the dogs. Lev Popinski wants to find answers. He looks in the wrong place. We do not need to hurt him. Come on, Karl. Let us free him from the cellar. Fine, because grandmother tells me that is what I will do. But your time is almost up, asshole.
She looks at the babushka. Thank you for freeing him. I will go on my way then.
If he has any sense, he will get far, far away from here. But you, there is nowhere you can go that is safe. Smetanova. Smegmovich. She spits at your horse's hooves, which is frankly quite rude. Your horse whinnies.
She's just going to take the hint and leave. We're going to turn the horse around. Perhaps today is not the best day for riding after all.
There's booing and jeering as you turn around and ride back home. You can't help but wonder, Lev, even if they release him, where is he going to go? It sounds like they've done a bit of a number on poor Popinski. Hopefully he can find his way to safety, maybe even to you. You had never realised it quite so strongly before, Assolbert. Your worry for Lev is really quite profound. You do hope he's alright.
You have listened to an episode of Red Moon Roleplaying, where we played Chekhov's two sisters and one brother for Onyx Path Publishing's They Came from Bridgton Rectory. You'll find this costume drama take on They Came From and many other genres in the upcoming They Came From the RPG Anthology that is now on Kickstarter, and you can find a link to that in the show notes. Joining Matthew was Kim Godwin, MK Anderson, and Eddy Webb. The music was made by Northumbria and was used with permission from their label Cryochamber. Check out their website at cryochamber.bandcamp.com or their YouTube channel for some moody dark ambient for your gaming table. We would like to give massive thanks to our champions of the Red Moon: Martin Heuschober, Nastasia Raulerson, Simon Cooper, David, Julia, Camilla, Bob Lange, Cameron, Antxon, Graham Barey, and Daniel for their generous support. And we'd of course also like to thank all of our other patrons. Without your support, this show would not be possible. If you want to support our work, please check us out on Patreon. You can get access to bonus campaigns for Cult of Divinity Lost and Coriolis there, as well as get early and raw access to all of our recordings. You can also hear your name read on the show as a champion of the Red Moon, as well as play some Cult with us. Most importantly, that support is what keeps the show going, so do check us out there. Thank you again for listening, and remember that love, friendship, and respect do not unite people as much as a common hatred for something.